For most of my life, I thought my biggest challenge was a lack of discipline. Every morning I woke up with good intentions. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be better. I wanted to stop emotional eating. I wanted to accomplish more and do it all flawlessly. Because inside, I believed my worth depended on getting everything right. I had an impressive collection of books and calendars and journals and planners and strategies that were supposed to help me find my greatness. And then every night I collapsed into bed wondering why I hadn't followed through on most or any of it. At the time, I assumed the answer was to try harder, be more motivated, get more organized, learn another strategy, fix myself. And what never occurred to me was that I was trying to change without the conditions I needed to do so. I just assumed I was the problem. Now, looking back, I can see that so many of the struggles I blamed on my character were really signs that my nervous system needed something from me. The anxiety, the emotional eating, the inability to focus, the procrastination, the self-doubt, all of it, none of it was proof of my defectiveness. It was evidence that my nervous system was overloaded. I was treating every symptom as proof of a character flaw instead of asking what those symptoms were trying to tell me. The question that eventually changed my life was this: what if there's a reason I keep doing the things I do? What if my flaws and deficiencies are pointing to something important? And once I began approaching my experience with curiosity instead of judgment, I started understanding what was going on for me. I learned that the real source of my struggles was not brokenness, but a nervous system that was overwhelmed and holding too much. Learning about my nervous system and how to support it allowed me to heal and change in ways that I've been trying to for years. No, for decades, really. So let me share some of the things I learned so you can start using them for yourself. Let's begin with some nervous system truths. I'll start by saying that a lot of the nervous system advice out there today is centered on learning how to calm yourself down and control your nervous system. The goal there seems to be centered on feeling better so you can get back to being productive. And I understand why this message is very appealing, because when we're struggling with anxiety, stress, overwhelm, unwanted behaviors, or a sense that life feels harder than it should, relief sounds really wonderful. But the challenge is that feeling better for a moment and lasting change are not the same. If all we're doing is helping ourselves feel better for a few moments before returning to those same patterns, those same pressures, the same lack of internal resources, the same unmet needs, that's not really progress. Not in my book anyway. Sustainable change requires something more. It requires understanding as to what is driving our experience and developing the internal resources to do things differently. Now, I want to say that again because I want you to really have a sense of what the goal is. Sustainable change, the new life you want, requires you to, number one, understand what is driving your experience, and two, develop the internal resources needed to respond differently. What I'm describing is embodied self-leadership, and it will take you anywhere you want to go. Now, notice the difference between what I'm describing and the typical nervous system approach, where the nervous system is treated as a problem to solve. The nervous system is not a problem to solve. It is our guidance. It's like a gauge for how we're doing and what we need. So imagine driving your car and seeing the gas gauge on empty, right? You wouldn't solve that problem by disconnecting the gauge. The gauge isn't the problem. The gauge is providing information. Your nervous system works in much the same way. Anxiety, overwhelm, exhaustion is information, right? Even many of the behaviors that we fight so hard against, they're information. So the goal is to learn to listen and provide what is truly needed. In the same way an empty gas tank is addressed by providing fuel, we'll solve our personal struggles when we learn to fill ourselves with the internal resources that have been missing. Now, this is such an important point, so I want to pause on it so you can really take it in. To give yourself the life you want, you must develop the inner resources you need. Sometimes we treat ourselves like a seed that we want to grow into a beautiful plant. And we put that seed in a pot. We sprinkle a little sand over it. We stick it in a dark closet. And then a few weeks later, we berate it for not blooming. But to grow a plant, we must place that seed in nutrient-rich soil, give it sunlight, water, air, everything it needs to flourish. For you to grow and flourish, you need certain conditions. What are they? Attention, attuned caregiving, support. And your nervous system is constantly providing information about what that means. So, as we've said, in order to heal, change, and grow, you need to provide yourself with certain conditions. The nervous system is your guide for what those conditions are and how well we're meeting them. So now the question is, how do we learn to listen to your nervous system? And one of the most helpful practices I teach is called the nervous system check-in. It's a simple way to begin paying attention to your internal state so that you can better understand the relationship between your circumstances, your nervous system, your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors, because they are all interdependent. By paying attention, you'll discover patterns like what increases activation in your system, what supports calm, what drains your capacity, and what helps you feel more resilient and connected. That information gives you understanding, and understanding helps you recognize what you need. When you consistently provide for yourself, you begin building the internal resources that support meaningful change. This is the first step in embodied self-leadership. Now, if you want to learn the practice, I've created a free nervous system check-in resource that walks you through it step by step. The guide includes instructions in either video or PDF form and supporting resources to help you get started. You'll find the link in the description below. If you choose to download and practice with it, the guide will help you begin a different conversation with yourself, one rooted in curiosity rather than criticism, one rooted in understanding rather than judgment. Now, you'll find the link in the video description below, and just make sure to come back and leave a comment about what you find and how this practice is impacting you. And lastly, if this conversation was helpful, please subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who may need to hear it. And until next time, remember this: you're not the problem, you're the possibility.